Hello, everybody. And just to timestamp this, it is Monday, April 6th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I'm saying that because I don't know how long this will live on. But we are in a really interesting period of time, a time we'll look back on, I'm sure, and remember as historic. And although there will be some tragedy, great things often come out of tragedy. So we have banded together to do precisely that, to make sure that while we're in a very uncharacteristic, difficult, challenging season, we can coach each other forward. We can not only get each other through this, but we can actually come out better. So we are going to dedicate ourselves for the next 55 days to the concept of human betterment. We have people who will be going through the program. I'll refer to the 55 days as the program. And we also have people who will be coaching you through the program. And by the way, they will be going through the program too. So let's begin. We begin with a kickoff. And whenever there's a kickoff, there's a goal at some point. So what I would like you to do, and it doesn't have to be in this moment, but as we move forward, I would like you to really think about what you want the outcome to be. Now, I had a conversation with somebody recently, and I said, I don't love the word goal. I don't love the word goal because two boxers go into a ring, or two fighters go into the octagon, or two football teams get out on a field, and they both have the same goal. But somebody's not going to achieve the goal. I want everybody here to achieve it, so we're going to refer to it as an outcome. And because we are doing this in real time, although I know some of you will be listening to the recording, you will achieve whatever outcome you set for yourself if you have the belief, the dedication, the tools, and the mindset. And I'm going to give everything I can to make sure everybody here achieves the outcome they want. So over the next 48 hours, I want you to really think carefully about what outcome you want for yourself. And don't compromise. You know, I meet people and they tell me that they're 70 pounds overweight. And we sit down and we talk about the outcome they want. And they'll say something like, well, if I could just lose 10 pounds, I'll feel better. And really that kind of statement comes out of fear. I want to move fear out of the way. Let's just be relentless in pursuing the things that we really want. And let's be optimistic in believing that together we can make it happen for all of us over the course of the next 55 days. If you're looking at your screen, you're seeing your diaphragm. And no, I'm not actually looking at you. We don't have like an X-ray camera in your computer. It's not your diaphragm, but it is a diaphragm of a human being, and you have one. And we're going to start by talking about this muscle. Because one of the most important things for you to do is breathe. Now, I hesitated to make sure all of you are doing precisely that, and you probably said, well, of course, I breathe every day, thankfully. But when I say breathe, I really mean take in oxygen. Not a little bit of oxygen. All the oxygen that you can take in so that you can perform optimally. Because your body is a machine that functions, for the most part, in the presence of oxygen. And the more oxygen you have available to your muscles, the more available you have to the mitochondria, the power centers of your cell, the better you are, the better you feel, the better you perform. Now, everybody living breathes, but most people, especially people who sit a lot, meaning you get out of bed in the morning, you sit and have your cup of coffee, you sit in the car, you drive to work, you sit in your chair, you go to lunch, you sit at a restaurant, you go back to the office, you sit in the conference room, you sit in your chair. And some of you, after all of that, you go to the health club, and then you sit on exercise machines. And if you're sitting all day, well, you don't really require, in terms of survival, that much oxygen. So you start to breathe in survival mode, just enough oxygen, just enough to keep you functioning. if you look at an infant breathe, or if you watched Jim Beatty, who in many aspects is like an infant, if you watched him breathing in the video today in the group, he showed you, as did Troy, that they are using this muscle called the diaphragm. When you watch an infant breathe, you see the belly rise and fall. When you watch an office worker breathe, you can't see any movement. We stop using that muscle. So here's what I want everybody to do this week. Breathe from the diaphragm. Now, I'm not going to spend any more time on it right now. I'm just going to quickly go through the process and then we'll move on. But I've asked the coaches to coach you through this process because as basic as this is, most people have literally forgot how to breathe, even at a cellular level. And you've got to get back that memory that you came into this world with. When you were an infant, your body knew what to do. It was in divine perfection. It knew how much breath to take in. But most people who live what we can call an unwell lifestyle live with survival breath. And we're going to change that. And if you're an athlete, even if you're an athlete, you're probably not using the diaphragm because you probably don't focus on it, or to the degree that you're capable of. So here's how you go through this process of diaphragmatic breaths. 3 breaths in the morning, ideally first thing when you get out of bed. The first thing you do is exhale. Now, not just exhale the way you always exhale. I mean exhale and then keep blowing. And then more. And then you're going to feel as if you've done it. You're going to go, okay, that's all I got. In that moment that you think that's all I got, blow out more, and you're going to be shocked. More air comes out. And now you feel a little weird because your body wants to suck in air because that's what you do. But I want you to try to blow out more. And again, you're going to go, whoa, I can't believe there was more in there. And let's just consider, for the sake of a visual, that there's toxic gunk living in the bottom or sitting in the bottom of your lungs. And if you don't exhale fully, it never leaves. So that's what you want to do. You want to get that last bit out. Now, you're going to really hunger for oxygen, and this is a good thing, but you're going to put your fingertips between your rib cage or right where your rib cage splits, and you're going to try to breathe so that the air that you're taking in fills that space. Most of you are probably doing shallow chest breathing. Not on purpose, it's just what your body has learned to do. So some of you will have a really hard time with this at first. But I'm promising you, for some people it'll take 5 minutes, for some people it'll take 2 days, literally. But there comes a moment where you go, got it. You kind of make the mind-diaphragm connection. I wouldn't be starting off or spending much time on this if it wasn't really important. So it's really important. So you breathe in and you draw in to the bottom of the lungs. And then when you feel as if it's fully engorged, there's no room left, you've taken in all you can, you keep breathing in, but now you suck that air into the top of your lungs. And you'll be amazed how much comes in. And once you have a full breath, hold it for just a fraction of a second, just so you have that moment where you go, I'm full. And then just relax and let the exhale happen. And then do it again. And then do it a third time. Now, I'm going to warn you, some of you might get a little lightheaded because you're not used to this. All of you, within 3 days, will feel incredible just from this. And I know it's hard to believe, this seems so simple, but why not start out with something really simple? So all of you are going to breathe better. Now, another thing I want you to do is think better. Mindset is an overused word, because it's so important. So why is it overused? Because people don't fully understand what it is. So they think it means motivation or positive thinking. And those things relate to mindset, perhaps in a moment. But mindset is more than that. And I do entire weekend workshops on this. And as we move forward, I will introduce you to some more concepts and terms and exercises. But for now, I want you to understand that mind is made up of 3 moving parts. Now, not literally, but I'm going to tell you why I teach it this way. I grew up in a physical world where when you would compete, you would throw a ball and hit each other somehow. Or you'd hit a ball, or you'd throw it through a hoop. But there was always something physical. And you needed to be faster, and you needed to be stronger, and you needed to hit harder. And then as I started to study exercise science and exercise physiology, it all came down to the physical anatomy. You understand the skeletal system, and then you understand that bones don't move by themselves, muscles move bones, and then if somebody has a muscular imbalance, it's a physical imbalance. We fix it by doing physical exercise. So everything was physical. So the concept of mindset was difficult for me, although I knew it was important. And it was only when I learned that a thought is physical that everything changed for me, and ultimately I became, I'm going to say, an expert in helping people shift and adjust mindset. Now, when I say a thought is physical, that sounds bizarre, but if we could take a look at the dendrites in your brain, and I could ask you to think a thought you never thought before, we would see dendrites move in a way that they never moved before. And if you think that thought again and again and again, those dendrites attach physically. So it's tiny, but it's physical. So if a thought is physical, then changing mindset involves a physical change in the brain. So there are three parts, three players in mindset that I will refer to as the muscles of mindset, although they're not literally muscles. But right now I'm just going to introduce you to them. The EEM is the emotional experiential memory. It is the part of your brain that keeps you alive, it keeps you safe, it keeps you protected by linking with the emotion of fear. So if you were ever bit by a snake and you see a snake, you may not even consciously remember the incident, but you have fear and that's keeping you safe. The challenge for most people is the EEM doesn't have a sense of humor, you can't have conversations with it. So sometimes it attaches fear to things, and as a result, it limits you. So for example, if somebody exercises for a period of time and it's unpleasant and they don't get the result they want, the EEM starts to think that's pain. That's something we want to avoid. So you don't consciously say, I'm never going to exercise again, but when you start to, the EEM holds you back, thinking it's something to avoid. The PFC is the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain where we create possibility, where we create a memory that hasn't happened yet, a future. And so many people are limited because they don't actively use the PFC. So the EEM holds you back, the PFC moves you forward. And if we think of these as muscles, we could work them. So in many cases, if you feel stuck, by developing your capacity to imagine, to think a different outcome, to change a belief, you strengthen the PFC. And these two parts of mindset are kind of in a tug of war where the EEM wants to hold you back, the PFC wants to move you forward. Now, there needs to be a balance. When we look at the prefrontal cortex electrical activity in people who have been in the same job, living routine lives for 10 years, and they work in a cubicle, and their life is very routine, there's no electrical activity in the prefrontal cortex. Conversely, when we look at mountain climbers or cliff divers, their PFC is lighting up like a Christmas tree. So if your PFC has no control, you'll go, oh, look, a cliff. Let me jump off and see what that feels like. So we do need both, but you've got to change the relationship. And how do you change the relationship? By changing your focus. By changing the operation of your RAS, your reticular activating system. So you don't have to memorize any of that now. That was an introduction, but I want you to understand, as we go through this program, you're going to learn to gain control of all three mindset muscles. If we could get those three mindset muscles to work in alignment with what you want to achieve, it feels effortless. You just get there. But because we go through life and we have people calling us names and giving us labels, our mindset often becomes maladapted. In other words, the EEM is trying to protect you. The PFC is looking for belief and possibility, but if there isn't any, it shuts down. And the RAS will focus on what it focuses on by command, but unfortunately most people don't even know they have an RAS, so other people take control of it. So when a teacher says to you, sit still, stop daydreaming, that affects your wiring. That affects your mindset muscles. When somebody gives you a label, like you're lazy, you're unmotivated, you're good for nothing, it changes the relationship between the three players. So over the course of 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, from infancy to adulthood, many people develop maladapted relationships between those three players, and here's the really good news, we can fix it. But what maladapts a mindset? Stress, destructive habits, destructive emotional rituals. In other words, if for many years somebody told you something about yourself that was unpleasant, you now play that in your head even though that person or voice might be gone. Again and again and again, ritualistically. So in a sense, you were programmed to hold on to thoughts that really have no merit, but they're wired in. Those dendrites attached, and we have to rewire. And I think the crime that I see most often, and I'm calling it a crime, is when a new client comes to me and starts their sentence with, I am, and then adds the label that somebody else gave them. For example, they go, well, I am depressed. I say in this moment, no, I'm on medication, but I'm on medication because I am depressed. Or they say, I am diabetic. And whenever I run into an I am, I ask people the same question. I do it like reflexively now. I ask, are you a cold? And they kind of look at me like, you know how the dog tilts his head to look at you, like, what are you talking about? And I ask again, are you a cold? And they go, no, am I cold? No, are you a cold? And they go, what do you mean? I say, well, did you ever have like a runny nose and a sore throat? And they go, oh, yeah. I go, well, what did you say when that was going on? I have a cold. Oh, but you didn't say I am a cold. No, I have a cold. So why are you a diabetic? Because your doctor gave you the label, that's why. The diabetic condition is something we can change, but you'll never change it if your PFC is shut down. So we've got to remove the maladaptations, we've got to remove the labels. And you'll come to understand over the next 55 days that anything related to body, mind, or spirit that is not optimally tuned for you is a maladaptation, and it can be fixed. The primary agent in bringing about maladaptation is stress. Now, don't misunderstand me. Stress is good. Stress is good. It makes us stronger. Exercise is stress. We go to the gym because we want to stress our body so that our body can recover. But the recovery part is vital. So the stress response is either when you're being chased and you have to run for your life, or if an athlete is going in to compete and psychs himself up or psychs herself up, it's the same thing. We're getting agitated so that we can perform at a higher level. But after the competition, or after you escape, or after you fight and win, or fight and lose, then we go into recovery. So the stress response is called the sympathetic response, and the recovery is called the parasympathetic response. Now, some of you are going, what kind of webinar is this? I thought you were going to give me exercise and eating. Well, this is a part of the challenge. For so many people, they try exercising and changing the way they eat, and if weight loss is a goal, they lose weight and they gain it back. If you don't understand the elements of what I'm sharing with you now, you will not be empowered to gain control of your body and your health. Conversely, stay with me, I'm promising you in short order, you will be in complete control of your body and your health. How does that sound to you? Does that, at the very least, make a little bit of sense? So, in optimal world, in optimal function, stress is good and recovery is vital. The challenge for most people, and I would say all people who are given a label like being hypothyroid or hypertensive, or people who are told they have metabolic syndrome, or people have a condition I've learned to call weight loss resistance. The common thread that runs through all of these people is their stress load is too high. Now, I'm not going to go very far down this road today, but I'm promising you a little at a time you're going to completely understand this. So they get stressed, and not for a moment. They have a difficult day at work, they get yelled at, or they don't finish a project, and they get in their car and they start to read their texts, and somebody says something they don't like and they get upset, and now they're sitting in traffic and they want to get home, but they're texting back and forth and getting more and more agitated, and now they come home, and rather than relaxing, they tell their spouse about the stress of the day, and they're reliving it, and then they play it over again at night as they lay in bed, and they never go into recovery. So they get locked in at the top of that stress arc, and they start to live that way. And when you start to live that way, you become anxious and tired. Over time, your biochemistry changes, your brain function changes, you develop brain fog, things don't work the way they used to work. And unfortunately, too many people think the answer is to go to the doctor and get a prescription. When you get into that condition of adrenal stress, you develop a maladaptation of the endocrine system, the hormone systems, and you move into a mode where your body starts to store fat. So if anybody here has gained 5 or 7 pounds in a couple of months or over 6 months, and not because you changed anything, and then you tried dieting, you tried exercising, and you just can't lose that weight, this is what's going on. When we change your hormonal imbalance back to optimal, you start to recover, and the fat goes away. So the biochemistry that drives this response is consistent whatever the manifested label becomes. In other words, if I meet somebody who says, yeah, well, I gained 15 pounds, I can't lose it no matter what I do, and now I'm hypothyroid and I'm taking thyroid medication. Or I meet somebody who goes, yeah, I went to the doctor and he said I'm pre-diabetic and he gave me some medication and I've gained 12 pounds, no matter what I do, I can't get rid of it. This is the biochemical process that underlies the condition. In a stressed moment, the hypothalamus, which is the control center of the brain, and I promise you we're going to get to the exercise and eating, but it's important that you understand this stuff. The hypothalamus, in response to stress, wants to get you into fight or flight in case you have to run or in case you have to fight. It doesn't understand that the boss is not going to punch you. It doesn't understand that there's not a wild animal about to chase you. It just feels that stress response based on your emotions, so it starts to crank out corticotropin-releasing hormone. You don't have to memorize any of this. But corticotropin-releasing hormone signals the pituitary and says, hey, pituitary, we got to go to work. There might be some danger here. I want you to crank out more ACTH, adrenocorticotropin hormone. ACTH signals the adrenals to crank out cortisol. You might have heard cortisol. It's often called the stress hormone. And if you're about to get into an octagon for a fight, this is good because you're going to recover in a little while. But if you're not, if you're sitting in your car or laying in bed playing over all of your stresses, or sitting at your computer at 2 o'clock in the morning responding to unimportant emails and getting upset about them, or reading about conspiracy theories over and over and over again and chasing rabbit trails, then the cortisol keeps going, and that's what we call chronic adrenal stress. Now is your opportunity to get away from it. Now, this is the challenge we face. You turn on CNN or Fox News, and we're talking about a virus. And if you focus your RAS on that virus, even if it never touches your life, the stress of it brings about that response. So let's put things in perspective. It is scary if you hear worst-case scenarios. The media keeps people interested by playing out worst-case scenarios. Now, is there something to fear? Yes. And do you want to get sick? No. So if you're asked to take precautions, should you? Absolutely. But let's find the opportunity. Let's focus our RAS collectively on something better. Because there's no point to just sitting at home watching the virus. There's no point to watching the numbers and the statistics. If you've learned that you should wash your hands more often, good. If you're told that you should stay in your home most of the time, good. If you're told that you're only supposed to go out for essentials, good. If all of this works to make this virus pass through us as a population, good. But we don't have to focus on it day and night. So let's put things in perspective. One of three things will happen. Either you will not be exposed to the virus in a way that you are affected by it. That's one option. And I wish that for everyone here. But realistically, there are two other options. You may be exposed to the virus. You may actually have the virus and start to develop antibodies for it, but never know it because you never have symptoms. So those two scenarios are likely for most people, and they're not that scary. The third scenario is you get the virus and you have symptoms. And if that happens, then you want to be able to recover. And although that's not exciting news right now, lots and lots and lots of people have already had the virus and recovered. So right now, let's focus on being prepared optimally so that in all likelihood we don't get exposed to the virus, but if we do, we don't get symptoms, and if we do, we recover. Because the program that we're about to embark upon will bring about biochemical change, meaning rebalance hormones in your body chemistry, and mechanical change, meaning if you have muscular imbalances, if function is difficult, if you don't have the energy you used to, if walking up steps is challenging, we're going to make it better. So let's refocus the RAS on biomechanical betterment or biochem-mechanical betterment. Let's just all get better. Is that a good deal? I'll give you the tools, I'll give you the strategy, and then it's up to you. Coaches, you guys ready for this? Because we're about to change a whole lot of lives for the better. During a time that most people call a crisis, we're going to help people get better. What a gift for us. Because we become health, medical, science, fitness professionals because we want to help people. Here's our chance. So when we talk about exercise, and we talk about eating right, and we talk about health, we just think of the body as a thing that we see in the mirror and a thing that we plop down on the couch. And a thing that we sometimes rub against another body for pleasure, hopefully. But really, our bodies are incredibly intricate. They are amazing machines, and they're made up of systems. And the systems are made up of organs, and the organs are made up of cells. And every cell is living. So if we have an overview of the systems of our body, we can break them down into operational systems that work together to give you your form, to give you your function, and to give you your health. We're going to zero in on some of them in this program. Now, when people think of exercise, they're typically doing it for a specific goal. So, for example, if somebody's a runner, they're running to improve their muscular system and their cardiovascular system so that they can run better. If somebody's a bodybuilder, they're focused on the muscular system. But when we start to think of the body as an intricate combination of systemic functions, we realize that our lifestyle allows us to take these systems and optimize them, tune them up, make them better. So if we take a really simple movement, what we might call in kinesiology, flexion and extension of the hip and knee joint, ordinary folks would call it a squat. So if you do a squat, and I say, what system are you working? Most people go, the muscles. We're working the muscles. We're working the butt, the glutes, the quads. And they'd be right. But what if we do that squat and we combine it with diaphragmatic breath? What if we take a really deep breath as we go down and we do an explosive exhale as we go up? Well, now we're also involving the respiratory system. And what if we make it more dynamic by adding a jump? Well, now we're involving the skeletal system because it's having some impact. We're explosively going upwards. We're involving the circulatory system. Our heart rate's going to elevate. So we're working these systems together. And then there's another system we'll talk about next week called the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is a cleansing system that removes toxins. But for the people who sit, that I described earlier, if you spend most of your day sitting, your lymphatic system has not been awake in a very long time. Next week, I'm going to show you a fun and simple way to activate the lymphatic system. But if you do 3 jump squats with breath, you work these systems together in an incredibly harmonic, healing way. So let's recognize this doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be strategic. So in a moment, I'm going to introduce you to 3 different categories, and everyone here will fall into one of those 3. You'll either be a phoenix, a thoroughbred, or a chrysalis. Stay with me. You'll enjoy going through that learning, and you'll know which one you are. And it's not better to be one than the other 2. It just helps because as we go through the program, the exercise prescription will be different for each category. The phoenix and the thoroughbred should do, in this week, 3 jump squats with breath. The chrysalis, I'm going to leave it up to you. You'll use your judgment. So we're going to learn to improve all of these systems. But right now, if we're talking about immunity, being strong enough to overcome a virus if it shows up, then we have to look at 2 systems specifically, the immune system and the parasympathetic system. Immunity is not something you get from vitamin C in a moment. I actually went to the store and I had a list from my mom and I bought her some stuff and she was out of vitamin C and I did find some. But most of the shelves were empty of vitamin C because everybody's buying it now because they've heard that vitamin C helps you with immunity. But it doesn't work that way. We're so used to thinking that you take a pill, a medication, and it just fixes you. Immunity is something you earn when there is no threat, so you're protected when the threat comes. So if you remember that statement, next time there's a virus, you'll be protected because we're going to start improving immune function now. And parasympathetic, remember, the adrenal system, that's called the sympathetic nervous system. Your body is sympathetic to what you need. So if you're being chased by a tiger, the respiratory system cranks up. The circulatory system cranks up. You start to release what are called catecholamines. You don't have to think about this consciously. It happens because the systems of your body are sympathetic to what you need. After the threat is gone, under normal health conditions, you would recover, and that's called the parasympathetic system. Remember before I showed you 2 arrows, one going up, one going down. The parasympathetic system is the recovery system. And when we heal, we're asking the parasympathetic system to do its thing. So if you are in chronic stress, you are a greater target for any pathogen, virus, bacteria, than if you have great parasympathetic recovery. Metabolic energy is the fuel that you have available to fuel all of those systems of your body. And if you eat well, you're getting good fuel. And if you breathe well, you're taking in oxygen. And if everything's in balance, you have great metabolic energy. But if one system starts asking for more metabolic energy, and or if you eat poorly and take in the wrong nutrients or not enough of the right ones, your metabolic energy becomes compromised. And you start to move along what's called the disease continuum. You know, I met somebody who told me he got diabetes when he was 52. And I had a smile, and he was very serious, but it just kind of amused me. And I just looked at him and I said, no, you didn't. And he got a little upset. He goes, yeah, I did. I got diabetes when I was 52. I said, no, you didn't. And now he started to get really angry. He goes, yes, I did. I went to the doctor when I was 52, and he told me I had it. Ah, so you got diagnosed when you were 52. You didn't get it when you were 52. You started getting it when you were 11, when you were drinking Mountain Dew. That's when you started getting it, because it happens along a continuum. Or maybe earlier, when you were 3 and your mom was buying Juicy Juice because it said with antioxidants, loading you up with sugar. It was the beginning of a process that moved you along a continuum that brought you to a label. But here's the really good news. Whether it is hypothyroidism or type 2 diabetes or weight loss resistance, if it happened along a continuum, we can reverse it. We can move you back toward health. I promise we can. And this is the 6-point secret that I and your staff of coaches rely upon. We will incorporate, I'll say exercises, but it's more than that, but we will focus on 6 points, sometimes all at the same time, sometimes one at a time. Brain, immune system, gut, mind, spirit, and cell. This is the first time you're hearing this from me, but not the last. We're going to talk a lot about taking control of those elements: brain, immune system, gut, mind, spirit, and cell. That's the essence of the program you're about to begin. Now, the exercise routine that you're going to start using, and I know some of you had a head start because the coaches were great enough to show variations on the functional 6. I know Kristen and Angelica and Aileen did a really nice video in a class setting showing how we can go through the functional 6. Ariel did a version of it, and I don't have to name everybody who did, but you guys did and you saw it. And if you just came into the group today and don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay. You'll have access to all of those videos. So what you're looking at right now is a one-page that you can download from the group. And it is a one-page because it's your reference for this week of the functional 6 exercise routine that all of you should do. Nobody here, I promise nobody is too advanced for it. I've worked with collegiate athletes, amateur athletes, and professional athletes, and I would put all of them through this routine. I've also had 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds, and even one 91-year-old named Doris go through the functional 6. So it is literally for everyone, because when I bend my leg, I do it at the knee joint, and so do you. I don't even have to see you to know this. So biomechanically, we are the same. Now, we are different. We all have different metabolisms, and we all have different exercise histories and different stress thresholds. So we are the same, but we are different, which is why everyone can benefit from the same routine as long as we have categories. And that's exactly what I'm going to provide. So if you're super advanced and you're doing 2.5-hour workouts right now, this is your chance to rebalance. You will come to understand it, but I'm asking you, trust. That's what I'm asking for right now. You're not too advanced to do this routine. I promise you will thank me for it. All you need is a stability ball, a medicine ball, and or some dumbbells, and resistance tubing. Now, right now, the stores are out of this stuff. I mean, lots of companies, and some are surprised, are benefiting right now because there's a frenzy to buy things, not only toilet paper, but at-home exercise equipment. But this is why I love the coaches that are in this group. Because normally I'd say you need these things. You don't need any of them. Just trust the coaches, and even tomorrow, they'll show you in videos and their segments and their shows how you can do the functional 6, even if you don't have any exercise equipment. So if you do have access to this, this is all you need. You don't need to go to a gym. The functional 6 is called the functional 6 because it's made up of 6 movements that we all use in real-world function every single day. The first one is called the squat curl press. Now, again, you can find some demos already in the group, and more will come tomorrow. Holden works with athletes, and for those of you who are athletic, he'll be showing you some variations that will really challenge you. Holly works with seniors, and she will show you, if you are a senior, how even if you have a compromise or two, even if your knees don't work the way they used to, even if you've had a hip replacement, she will show you, am I right, Holly? She will show you how you can do a version of the functional 6 that will work for you. So, squat curl press is the first one. Second one is called a side front lateral raise. It looks like a deltoid exercise, but it's really a great core exercise. The third one is the lying leg curl, which is the greatest thing you can do to work the hamstrings. It is the greatest training mistake that athletes make, is training the hamstrings on a leg curl machine. The next one is called a hip roll. You might have heard it called a reverse crunch, but the reason I'm calling it a hip roll is because to get to those deep-lying core muscles, the transversus, the internal obliques, you want to lift the pelvic bone. You want to roll the hips backwards. When you do this correctly, you will find you make a sound. It sounds like this. That's what will happen. If you don't make that sound, you're not doing it right. And then we have a push, and then we have a pull. And when I say this is all the exercise you need to work every muscle in your body, I mean that literally. I do. It doesn't mean it's all you should ever do, but I'm promising you, if you're willing to give yourself to a version of this routine, you will be shocked. Now, the way the routine will lay out is there are 3 stations. You don't have to set up physical stations. When I take a group through it, I do set up physical stations. When people come to Biohackers, we do split them into physical stations. I know many of the trainers, when people come to your studio, especially if you're doing it in a group, station 1, station 2, station 3. But really it's more for the prescription of the exercise that we break them into stations. So station 1 is a squat curl press and a side front lateral raise. Station 2 is the lying leg curl and the hip roll. Station 3 is the pull and the push. Now, we have 2 different terms, activity time and active relief time. So I'm not using the word rest. When you finish a movement, you don't rest. You don't sit down. You know, if any of you do regular weight training, you do a set of squats and then you sit on a bench for a minute. There's none of that here. So between movements, you're still moving. So we call that active relief time. So we can change the intensity of the workout by changing the resistance load, meaning how heavy is your medicine ball, how heavy are your dumbbells. The intensity, how far are you jumping if you're jumping, how far are you pulling if you pull, how much resistance are you facing, how dynamic is your movement. But also we can stagger the time intervals. So longer activity and shorter active relief time is more difficult than shorter activity and longer active relief time. I'll give you an example. If you are a beginner, and I say, okay, let's do the push for 15 seconds. You go, okay, ready, go. And I'm going to say, just go at a comfortable pace. You go, 15. Good, time's up. We're going to take a minute rest. Good, now we're going to do the pull. And again, the rest is not sitting. It's just kind of walking around, getting ready for the next exercise. And I go, okay, now let's do another 15 seconds of this movement. And you do it. Now let's say somebody comes in who's a little bit more advanced than you. And I say, let's do the push for 1 minute. And then we're just going to take 10 seconds of rest and do the pull for 1 minute. If I'm explaining it well, you're getting a sense of the difference in workload, difference in intensity. So over time, when you integrate this routine into your 55-day program, we will speak to you in that language and you'll understand. We'll say 45 seconds activity time, 15 seconds of active relief time. Now, I told you that there are 3 categories. Everybody will be one of these 3. You're either a thoroughbred, a phoenix, or a chrysalis. So these are metaphors, but they work. They work to decide how intensely you should exercise during a program like this, how challenging your routine should be, because remember, what's vitally important is stress and recovery. So we don't want to overtrain you. We want to train you appropriately and let your body recover, and that's when it improves. Parasympathetic recovery is when you heal. The thoroughbred is a metaphor related to the thoroughbred racehorse. It's a metaphor for an individual who's already fit, naturally has an affinity for fitness, has an affinity for performance, probably likes athletics or sports. So the thoroughbred likes to be challenged. But from a psychological perspective, the thoroughbred wants to be something that he or she has never been. Bigger, faster, leaner, stronger. So the thoroughbred must rely upon that prefrontal cortex. They have to get imagery, vision of what they're going to be, and it's greater than they are right now. So we need to challenge the thoroughbred. The phoenix, this is a metaphor related to the bird from Greek mythology. The phoenix is born, this beautiful, incredible bird, and it flies around the world and has all kinds of wonderful adventures. And 500 years later, when it's time for the bird's life to end, it doesn't just die, it comes back to the nest where it was born. And old and decrepit, it goes into the nest, and it doesn't die. The nest bursts into flames, and it becomes this young, beautiful bird again. So the metaphor is related to the individual who was once fit, and they have a memory of being fit, but they're not there now. So the challenge for the phoenix is they typically go through a layoff, and then they go, I got to get back to the gym. You know, whether it's New Year's or after I finish this project or after I get married or after I get divorced, there's always a moment in time they go, I'm going to start again. But they're not in the same body they used to be in. And it doesn't function the way it used to. So they try to do the same workouts, but they wind up overtraining, getting injured, just getting burnt out. So the thoroughbred is the individual who's fit and wants to be more fit. The phoenix is literally somebody who wants to go back in time. And from a psychological perspective, they have the memory. They know what it was like. They just don't really know how to get there. And the chrysalis, you know, I got this in thinking about a caterpillar. And I don't think about caterpillars often, but the caterpillar has to crawl around with a lot of legs on its belly. And just imagine for a moment being a caterpillar and seeing butterflies going, wow, wouldn't it be cool to be one of those? But does the caterpillar have the prefrontal cortex to believe that it will one day be a butterfly? So the chrysalis is that stage between caterpillar and butterfly. And I meet so many people who've made it to that point where they wanted to transform, and whether it was a diet or an exercise routine, they signed up for something, they tried something, and they failed. And then a year later or 2 years later or 6 months later, they tried again and they failed. And every time they go through this process, their hope is high, but their belief is crushed. So the chrysalis is the individual who's never really achieved that fitness outcome, but wants it. So you're either a thoroughbred, a phoenix, a chrysalis. I'm going to ask you a question. If you want, you can type in which one you are. If you're with me live on April 6th. If you're listening to the recording, don't worry about it. But if you know which one you are, just type it in. I'm curious. And if you're not comfortable with it, just say yes. Because my question is, do you know which of the three you are just from that simple explanation? And if not, any of the coaches here will help you figure it out. So as we move through the 55 days, there comes a point in time that I'm going to say the thoroughbred do this, the phoenix do this, and the chrysalis do that. So we have to figure out which one you are. Here's what the 55 days will look like. This is week 1. The first 6 days, we're not really getting into a specific program. We're starting a process. I want you to understand the elements of nutrition. I want you to understand the elements of exercise. I want you to, if you can or when you can get to the store, make sure you get the right food so you can prepare. We're focusing this week on movement and nutrition and recovery. We want to get you ready. As I'm looking at the window, I see these names flying by, which is great. You know, thoroughbred, chrysalis, phoenix, yes, phoenix, yes, thoroughbred, chrysalis, perfect. So there's no stress this week. I don't want anybody to feel like they missed anything. This week, I just want you to do the best that you can. It's just do the routine, and I'm just going to give you some guidelines, so you can't really mess it up. Now, as we move beyond this week, it's going to get a little more intricate from week to week, and the thoroughbred will progress at a much higher level than the chrysalis. But I don't want you to jump ahead. I want you to be together with the group this week. So in this week, we're going to do the functional 6, and we're going to do what is called metabolic eating. A couple of weeks ago, I did a webinar with Dr. Kristen Camella, who is with us tonight, and with Dr. David Bleiweiss, who's also helping us with this group, doing some panel meetings and answering medical questions. And when we talked about the nutrition part, to help people understand that nutrition is a vital piece of immunity, and if you want to be protected, again, from any virus, there are certain rules. And one of those rules is if you want to be healthy and fit and optimal, you cannot live your life on fast food and sugar. Now, younger people who are athletic can get away with it for a while because you have a good metabolism. You're burning through things. But you don't know how often I meet people 35 years old who are the phoenix who tell me when I was 22 I could eat anything, and look at me now. So if you want to get better wherever you are, the nutrition piece is a really important piece. And we have to stop consuming those things that move us away from health. So it's not only about what we do eat, it's also about what we don't eat, but we need both of those answers. So you want to avoid the stuff that will harm you, but you really want to feed your immune system by consuming things that come from nature. And of all the nutritional suggestions and recommendations you get from me, that will be the hardest, honestly. We live in a world where food is manufactured. Most of the food is Frankenfood. Even some of it that looks beautiful. Looks beautiful because of genetic modification. So I'm going to urge you to make the most natural food choices possible. And as I share insights with you and your coaches share insights with you every week, you're going to realize how hard it is. You're going to get upset sometimes. You're going to go, wow, I never knew that was bad for me. But then you figure it out and it gets easier. The nutritional strategy that works for everyone 100% of the time is not to lock in on a specific diet. I've seen the pendulum swing. Fat is bad, don't eat fat. Fat is the worst, just eat carbs. Eat pasta. Carbs are good. Carbs, you got a carb load before you run. And then we got to a place where it was, no, fat is really good. Carbs are really bad. And the pendulum swings. Like it doesn't go to balance, it goes to whoosh, the other direction. And then we get to a place where it's protein, and then the pendulum swings. It's no, vegan, plant-based, only eat things that grow from the earth. And now the pendulum swinging again, and all of a sudden the carnivore diet or paleo. Listen, it doesn't need to be a pendulum swing. It needs to be metabolically sound, and it has to be supportive of your goal. So circadian nutrition means you move through seasons, and you give your body what it needs in that season. And can you do this as a vegan? Yes. But can you do it and eat meat? Yes. You just have to make the most natural choices possible and follow the guidelines that I lay out. So there are 3 phases of circadian nutrition, and we rotate them. We start with what I call metabolic eating, supportive of metabolism. So everybody's going to work in these next few weeks nutritionally to strengthen and balance those systems of your body, including the immune system, including the muscular system. Once we get to the next season, we're going to focus on fat burning. Now, I know not everybody here is concerned with burning fat, but most of you are because I saw your applications and you answered the questions when you joined the group. So we move to a fat burning segment. And then we go to a third one, which is intermittent eating focused on detox and cleansing. And then when we finish that, we go right back to metabolic meals. So through these seasons, you get better and better and better. So we are going to focus right now on the rules, the very simple rules of the first phase, metabolic meals. So metabolic eating with a specific focus on metabolism and immunity asks you to consume 3 to 4 meals per day made up of natural food sources. And ideally, a wide variety of foods and a wide variety of colors. Now, again, if you are living a vegan lifestyle because morally and ethically that's what works for you, then don't change that, but get educated in how to do it in line with this program. And if you stopped eating meat just because you thought it was bad for you, open up to some of the concepts that I share. I'm not going to encourage you to become something you don't want to be, but I do want you to learn to eat supportively within your comfort level. So ideally, each meal will contain a natural source of protein. It can be a plant-based protein. If you're going to eat meat, it should be grass-fed or pasture-raised. And it must be free of sugar, refined, bleached, processed carbohydrates. For some of you, I know that's challenging. Everybody here knows, but Phil, you don't understand. I'm a sugarholic. I'm promising you, I just want you to try it this week. But next week, I'm going to zero in a little bit more on sugar and breaking the sugar habit. And my promise is, when you start to do what I encourage you to do next week, you will be rid of sugar cravings within 3 days. But this week, I just want you to try. You might find you're rid of sugar cravings in 3 days anyway. So 3 to 4 meals. Each meal will contain a protein and be free of bleached and processed refined carbohydrates. In addition to the protein, each meal should contain a protein-sparing nutrient. I'll cover that at some length next week as well, but in short, it means something to give you energy so the protein can be used to build and repair cells. It spares the protein to be used for protein synthesis. Otherwise, you would burn the protein, you would metabolize the amino acids, and you'd have nothing to use as building material. So, a protein-sparing nutrient would be a natural, slow-release carbohydrate, like amaranth or quinoa or a really good grain, or a good, healthy fat. And with that, a nice, colorful array of vegetables. And I'm going to also say fruits. So a supportive meal will contain a protein-sparing nutrient, which could be a slow-release carbohydrate or a good, healthy fat, and a fruit or a vegetable. Now, I'm going to pause for a moment because some of you are going, what? Phil, I've known you for years, and I can't believe you're saying eat fruit. And the reason people misinterpret me sometimes is they want things to fall into a category of good or bad. And if you're on a fat loss program and you're trying to lose weight and you have weight loss resistance, you need to stabilize blood sugar, and fruits are very high in sugar. So if fat loss is the goal, vegetables will be much better for you as the fibrous carb choice than fruit. But if you're already lean and fat loss is not a major goal, the fibrous carb can be fruit. So a meal would contain a protein-sparing nutrient, and a fibrous carbohydrate. Now, some of you, your eyes went right to the right of the screen, and you're going, oh, wait, so eggs are good? Okay, cool. And I'm seeing a plate of food that looks healthy, good. And it looks like he has a martini there. Is that good? No. That's what you don't want to have. And it's not just a martini. Listen, alcohol is a sugar. It is the simplest sugar there is. It is the perfect way to interrupt the benefit of everything you're going to do here. So while I wouldn't say to you never drink alcohol again, I would say to minimize the likelihood of you continuing to move along that disease continuum and to optimize the balance between the systems of the body, the less alcohol you drink, the better. And I said alcohol is a sugar. Well, guess what else is a sugar? Sugar. So, sometimes you go to one of these smoothie shops. I don't want to name one of the franchise names, but they're popular. And you go in there and they have lots of names. There's the PB&J and there's the Berry Blast. And because it's sold in the smoothie shop, people think it's healthy. And when they make up your smoothie, they take a squeeze bottle and they squeeze something in there. It's clear, a liquid. And if you ask them what it is, it says it. It's like usually handwritten in marker on that little squeeze bottle, and it says turbinado. Guess what turbinado is? It's sugar. And honey is sugar. Now, that doesn't mean honey is bad. Don't get stuck in that mindset of things are good or bad. There's a place for everything. But for boosting metabolism and immunity, we've got to get rid of simple sugars regardless of what you call it. This entire slide presentation is available. You can download it as soon as we finish. All of you can. So I don't want you to private message me going, can you back up? I can't back up I mean, I can, but I won't, because you're going to have access to all of this. So this is just me going over it with you, so when you have it for yourself, it all makes sense. So this is not a complete chart, but it's an overview of how you would put together metabolic meals. So in the first column, we have options for proteins, good proteins, natural proteins. Second and third column, you would choose one, either something from the second or something from the third, not both. Because remember, I said a protein-sparing nutrient is either a natural slow-release carbohydrate or a good fat. So you would choose one from column 1, one from either column 2 or column 3, and then the fibrous carbs are in column 4. So you start to learn how to assemble meals. Being that we have an extra focus on immunity right now, there are certain foods that really have a propensity to fuel or boost the immune system, and you're seeing them here. And the primary reason is most of these foods, all of these foods are rich in what are called phytochemicals, but different colors represent different phytochemicals. Those are chemicals that come from plants, natural chemicals. And many of them fall into the category of what we call antioxidants. They inhibit free radicals. They inhibit little cellular destroyers, and they help to optimize the immune system. This is my book called Metabolic Eating, and it is pages and pages and pages of options and options and options for putting together metabolic meals. And I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm going to gift it to you. So you can download it as soon as we finish this from the group. And I am now introducing you to your new best friend. Ladies and gentlemen, your new best friend is Tammy Lang. If you haven't met her yet through the group, you need to, and you will. Tammy is going to show up in the group every single day at 5 o'clock to help you turn these concepts into actual meals. I am not a chef. These meals are okay, and they work from a functional perspective, but she's going to teach you how to turn them into delicacies in ways that are very, very, very simple. So, Tammy, I see you posting in the chat window right now. You are now everybody's new best friend, so you'll be introducing yourself officially to those who don't know you at 5 o'clock tomorrow. So make sure that you put that in your calendar. So, here we go. Week number 1. Going to be fun. Exercise routine. You're going to breathe, diaphragmatic breaths. You're going to jump, 3 jumps, and you're going to do the functional 6. If you're a chrysalis and the jump scares you, don't worry about it this week. Phoenix Thoroughbred, you're going to do the jumps. So after you do your diaphragmatic breaths, 3 squat jumps, breathing diaphragmatically. For your aerobic exercise, you're going to do 8 minutes as a minimum, 20 minutes as a maximum. Chrysalis closer to 8 minutes. Even if you go for an hour walk every day, I just want you to do 8 minutes. Because remember, stress recovery. We need the recovery part. We're going to bring back your parasympathetic recovery system. But in the 8 minutes, challenge yourself. So tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, it's not on the calendar, but I'm telling you right now, at 10:15, right, Kristen? Tomorrow morning at 10:15, my friend, my colleague, my partner, Dr. Kristen Camella, and her 2 sidekicks, who are incredible in and of themselves, but as a trio, they're amazing, Angelica and Aileen, will be doing an actual class taking you through an aerobic workout. So if you don't have a stair climber and you don't have a treadmill and you don't have an exercise bike, just tune in tomorrow at 10:15 in the group, and they will take you through a workout, and it's up to you if you want to do closer to 8 minutes or closer to 20. You don't want to miss this. And here's the really good news. If you do, you didn't, because we'll have the recording posted. This is really a good group, isn't it? How often should you exercise this week? Every day. Should you do the same routine every day? Yeah. You might want to learn it better from day to day or challenge yourself more. If you've heard that you're supposed to take a day off, that's bodybuilding. And, you know, if you train like pecs really hard one day, you need 48 hours for the pecs to recover. That's not what we're doing here. You know, I remember I was in Costa Rica, and my friend Mike and I were on this adventure, and we're driving, and we come to this place, and there are these guys cutting down sugarcane. And we pull over and we start talking to him in my very poor, broken Spanish. But I was amazed because these guys looked like bodybuilders. And they're living in Costa Rica, like out in the country, and they're walking around with these machetes. And I'm thinking, everything I learned about bodybuilding says this can't be possible because they need to take every other day off for their muscles to grow. But it's functional movement. It's not facing a machine and going, rrr. And then I started to notice, like the guy who mows my lawn had massive triceps, same thing every day. So the functional 6 is functional movement, so you can do this routine every single day. As far as eating, 3 to 4 equally spaced metabolic meals, make the most natural choices possible. Do you need supplements? No, but can they serve you now? Yes. I mentioned vitamin C earlier. I didn't do it facetiously. It really is important, especially for immunity. Most people are deficient in vitamin D, so if we're looking at essentials, I would say vitamin C, vitamin D, fish oil, which would be an essential fatty acid, and EFA, and anything that can boost the immune system. I'll give you some more about supplements in a moment. These are not needs, but if you have access to them or you can afford them, these would be a good starting point for your supplement program, even with supportive eating. I'll talk a little bit more about NAC, N-acetylcysteine, in a moment. And if you were on the webinar I did with Dr. Camella and Dr. Bleiweiss, you heard Dr. Bleiweiss talk about colloidal silver. If you haven't heard that, there are some links in the group. You might want to listen to it, and you could make the decision as to whether you want to incorporate colloidal silver in your supplement regimen or not. We're going to focus on prayer and gratitude, and I know some of you just cringed, probably more prayer than gratitude, because you feel like it's going to be religion, and it's not going to be religion. Prayer is really just a wish made in earnest. So if you believe in a higher being, if you do pray to something, then you can do that. But even if you don't believe in a higher being, you could still pray, and it's just a different language. It's a little bit of a difference in the language you use. So if you're not comfortable with the word prayer, then make it a wish. But really what you're doing is rewiring the PFC, the EEM, and the RAS. You're taking a minute or 5 minutes, and you're just allowing a wish to, in your mind, become something that you're going to achieve. Sleep 7-8 hours, man, that's not an easy one. I mean, to tell you honestly, I don't do that often. But hey, if you're home now, if you're not going to work, then figure it out, because I think I expressed how important recovery is, and although it's not the only piece of recovery, sleep's an important one. And as far as water, you need to drink a lot of it. If you're going to ask me what else you could drink, I'm going to say nothing replaces water. So ideally, you'll start to consume spring water or good filtered water or good pH-balanced water, and multiply your body weight by 0.55. That'll tell you how many ounces would be optimal, and most of you will be surprised because it's probably far more than you drink now. Okay, I said recovery is important. We're almost done. I said recovery is vital. It is. And I said that sleep helps us recover. It does, but it's not the only way. So I'm going to give you some other ways that you can recover. Laugh. Laugh because it creates the production of endorphins. You're giving yourself really good drugs when you get into a really good laughing fit. And when I say that, I really believe that, you know how you have friends, I hope for you, that you laugh with, and it's the kind of thing where sometimes you just get stupid, like you can't stop laughing, and you don't even know what's funny anymore, and you try to stop, and you go, okay, and then you look at each other, and you both start laughing again. Man, that is the most bonding experience, probably more so than sex, honestly. It is so healing. You know, you've heard laughter is the best medicine. You've probably at least heard people allude to studies about laughter being curative. It is. It is. So when we talk about recovery, I want you to find a way to laugh. And also, I want you to find a way, at least for now, to stop taking all the stimulants you take. But I don't take stimulants. I just have Red Bull. Okay. Well, that's stimulant. Well, I don't have Red Bull. I just have whatever it is that you have that's cranking up your central nervous system. Realize if you're in adrenal stress, it's feeding that adrenal stress. So I'm not going to get on a soapbox here. I'm not going to tell you to stop drinking your coffee, but I'm going to tell you something really interesting. Later on in the program, we get to the fat burning phase. Caffeine can be a fat burner, but it will only work as a fat burner for people who are not addicted to caffeine. So if you break the addiction now, we'll bring it back with benefit. Because if we're focused on recovery, we've got to stop cranking up the adrenals. People tell me caffeine gives them energy. Caffeine doesn't give you energy. Caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant. Energy is the conversion of food into fuel. They're two very different mechanisms. And if you have weight loss resistance or any diagnosed chronic condition or inflammation, free yourself of a caffeine addiction. And then we can use it, I'll say, even therapeutically. Honestly, I'm not saying forever, but it'd be really good to break that habit. Okay, so laughter, the emotion of love, and I mean familial love, being with your family, friends that you enjoy being with, romantic love, even if it's just loving conversations through Skype, whatever you can do right now to summon that emotion, do it. There's a reason that word comes up so often in meditation, in meditative practices. So laugh, love, and listen to healing vibrations, to healing frequencies, to music that makes you feel good. This is not frivolous. This is science. Kristen, give me a thumbs up on that. I need to hear an amen. This is science, and I'm reaching out to the cellular biologist, the scientist who understands we want our cells to be happy. And laughter and love and good vibrations and good frequency, that's science. So when I'm talking about recovery, this really is an amazing staycation that you have for 55 days to optimize every single system in your body. Now, Heather spoke about journaling, and she's going to use that as a very important tool for all of you. Kristen was showing you all of the biohacking equipment that we use, but she said her most important piece of equipment, the journal. Ariel is going to take you through some meditations. We wouldn't be doing it or speaking of this as much if it really wasn't valuable. So we're going to do meditation. When I say prayer, again, don't think of religion. And if you are religious, of course, there's room for that. But I don't want anybody to feel like they're being pushed into anything that makes them uncomfortable. When you write about something you're thankful for, you change your neural connections. You change the physical wiring of your brain. And when you're in a state of gratitude, you cannot be experiencing the stress response. So this is not just because Oprah said journal on one of her shows. This is science. So take it seriously. And if some of you are rolling your eyes, stop doing that. I have a 16-year-old daughter. I see enough eye rolling. Don't do that. Just trust. Try it. Really, just try it. And then you'll let me know. I got an amen from Bob Camella. Doesn't get better than that. And Holden echoed with another amen. So yeah, this is science. Simple science, but man, the most powerful science. Now, supplements are precisely that. Supplement is the extra. And years ago, when people would say, do I need supplements? I'd go, no, we can get everything we need from food. But honestly, food has changed. It's not the same. The meat that you're eating is not the same. It's not the same substance as what your grandparents were eating. The vegetables that you're eating don't come from the same earth that your parents' vegetables came from. So if we're really seeking optimal health and optimal immunity, I think supplements are important. But that doesn't mean you have to spend a fortune. It doesn't mean you need an arsenal. I gave you a short list before of some things that are foundational. I think a good multivitamin and a good multimineral, it just gives you a good base. Vitamin D3 I mentioned, vitamin C I mentioned, zinc contributes to immunity, and fish oil is a great anti-inflammatory. So If you wanted to say, what should my foundation of supplements be for most people, this is the general answer to that question. I snapped this picture this morning. This is what I'm taking every day right now. Doesn't mean you need to, but you can see there's silver, alpha-lipoic acid, pycnogenol, which comes from pine bark, an interesting novel compound called clinoptilolite. If you heard the M3 podcast where Krista and I spoke to Clayton, you heard me talk about this compound, but it literally removes metals and toxins from the cell. You don't need it, but again, something to learn about. Vitamin C, beta-glucan. So this is just what I'm taking, just so you understand that I'm not sharing anything with you I don't do myself. And Dr. Brasilia knows that I go to her facility so that she can stick a needle in my arm and put good nutrients in there. And we also do that right in Weston. For those of you who come to Biohackers, and our platinum members all go for IV. Not now because of a virus. They do it all the time because, again, you have to earn your immunity. So this is not something I'm saying run and do now, but there are some nutrients that are really valuable for immunity that we just can't get enough of in most, at least in the standard American diet. So glutathione is an antioxidant, but it's not just an antioxidant. It is the Mac Daddy antioxidant. It is the most potent, most important antioxidant, and it works both in and outside of the cell. The challenge with glutathione is if you eat glutathione, and you can go to a nutrition store and they'll sell you glutathione, but it never makes it into the cell. It's not bioavailable in that way. It has a heavy molecular weight. It gets destroyed by stomach acids. So if you eat it, it doesn't make it into the cell. So intravenous is a great transport mechanism to get the Mac Daddy antioxidant into my bloodstream and into my cells. Also, vitamin C. If you want to bolster immunity, you don't want to just have milligrams. You likely want to have grams. I'll put in as much as 5 grams or more sometimes. You can't eat that amount without getting digestive distress, stomach issues, diarrhea, discomfort. Bowel tolerance is the word that we use. So by putting it into the bloodstream, we don't have to worry about bowel tolerance. And then there are other compounds you can get intravenously. A Myers cocktail is a really good mix of those. So any place that does therapeutic IVs will probably recognize the Myers cocktail. So do you need to go do these now? No. And if you're sheltering at home, don't start running out to do this. But just be aware that if you want optimal immunity on the other side of this 55 days, it's something you should consider incorporating. Here's a list of the supplements that have been more than rumored, but really evidenced to play a role in immunity. So you'll be able to download this. You can consider these. I'm not pushing you toward any of them. I just want you to know that they've been demonstrated to help with immune function. We're done with the kickoff. That means the game has begun. It's on. So if you're not yet a part of the 55 Days group, you have to be. Just go to Facebook and just search for 55 Days, and you'll find us. It looks like this. You'll see I can't fit the whole panel in the top banner, so that's just some of them. But we will have ultimately 21 coaches who are scientists and doctors and health practitioners and personal trainers and coaches, and we're all going to guide you through this process together. Now, as soon as we finish, you can go to the page, and you'll see on the left-hand side, it says Files, and if you go into the Files, you will be able to download the Metabolic Meals Recipe book right now, and you'll also be able to download this presentation. So you can go through it, and this recording will be posted shortly. If you are listening live, then I'm going to ask you nicely to go to where it says Invite Members and invite anyone you know who could benefit from this. This is not for me. This is an opportunity that really came out of what most people perceive as crisis. And by bringing together this team of experts, and this is all altruistic, there's no money changing hands now, this is just people helping people. So anyone you know who has weight loss resistance, who struggled with their health, who lives in adrenal stress, who has been diagnosed with a chronic condition, who's living on 6 or 7 or 18 different medications, who doesn't have the energy they used to have, who lives with brain fog, anybody like that, or anybody who's fit and wants to be more fit, or anybody who wants to get back in shape, or anybody who's wished but has never really achieved it, just invite them into the group. There's no cost, there's no downside, there's no anything other than love. Here are some of the panel members and the shows that they will be providing. And the shows are interactive. They're going to be live. So we've made up a schedule, and you're going to get great experts. Tony Aviles, he is a monster. And when I say that, I mean that lovingly, because he has put together in New York City the Staten Island Slim Down, which has grown into a media event. And I don't know the number, but it's an impressive number. 1,000 people, 2,000, I don't know how many come, but they all come every year, and Tony takes them through this incredible, massive weight loss program. He's one of New York City's top coaches, and he's watching what's going on in New York right now and staying positive and coaching people, and he's become a part of this team. Tasso, if you've been a member for at least a few days, you've met Tasso, and that's a treat in and of itself. But Tasso is going to share with you guys every single morning as he goes through this program, both as a coach and somebody going through the program. We are going to have, well, you already met your new best friend, Tammy Lang. I mentioned Holly is going to modify all of this for seniors. Jim Beatty in Philadelphia, he's getting outside. Now, today, he posted a video about diaphragmatic breathing, and he almost apologized for being indoors. He goes, guys, I'm indoors, but, I'm going to show you something. So he does sometimes go indoors. But what I love about having Jim and also having Kristen Camella here is all of the things that Jim will get from nature, negative ions, infrared rays from the sun, Kristen will show you how to do as a biohacker. Sonia Matani, I just met. She was referred to me by one of our employees, and she's wonderful. She is a licensed mental health counselor, and she's just incredibly articulate and caring, and she's going to talk to you guys about maintaining mental health through this time where it's challenging. Honestly, I went to the grocery store today. Everybody's wearing masks and gloves, and it is bizarre. And I think the strangest thing for it, if you really stop and think, why does this feel so weird? Not only does it feel like a strange movie, but you can't read emotions on people's faces because they have masks. So it's almost like you're walking around with zombies. And it is a stressful thing. And then you have to, if you're a parent, what do you tell your kids? And if you're a kid, what do you tell your parents? So she's going to help us kind of figure all of that out. Dr. Brasilia Lazari, the best of the best. Kristen Camella is going to be extremely present here. She's not on this page because she's going to get her own very soon, and she is leading everybody through this class tomorrow morning at 10:15. That will be your aerobic exercise sessions. Troy Huggett in Battle Creek, Michigan, which was the original home of Kellogg. That's what I know about Battle Creek. And you've already met Troy. Holden joined us today. He's one of the top trainers at Biohackers, works with athletes. Ariel Griglin, she's a trainer at Biohackers. She's a trainer in my life. She's a trainer of trainers. She's a trainer of anybody looking to get better. She knows how to relate to people, and nobody brings together the physical and the spiritual like she does. And then we have Heather. And Heather, you've met her. She showed you her journal. Wait until you see the impact that she has on your life. So here's the schedule. This is available right now. And I wish I could have mentioned everybody, but it was all I was able to fit on one page. So you will meet everybody as we go. This is an incredible, incredible team. And here's what I'm going to leave you with. Let me take a quick glance at what's going on in this very busy chat window. Anything that anybody wants to share right now, because if I read things that already exist, they showed up earlier, so they don't make sense. I could just read shrimp, veggies, rice. See, it doesn't have relevance now. It came earlier. I'm ready. That's always relevant. Yay, Ariel. Will says, looking forward to it all. Love that. All right, and there's a lot here, which is wonderful. A lot of people, a lot of excited people, everybody interacting. That's what I love to see. Aileen says, incredible team of professionals. This is going to rock. So we will continue this chat in the group, ongoing, 24/7, but here's what I'm leaving you with for this week. Wake up in the morning, do your diaphragmatic breaths. If that's the time you're going to do your routine, great. You've already begun. You get out of bed, you breathe. Now you go, okay, I'm already in it. Then you do your breathing squats, 3 of them, and you jump if you're a phoenix or a thoroughbred. From there, you go into your functional 6. You could do 1 circuit through the 6 movements, or you could do 2 circuits through the 6 movements. You're going to use your judgment. If you're a chrysalis, probably best to start with 1. If you're a thoroughbred, you could jump right into 2. 8 to 20 minutes of aerobic exercise, ideally right after your functional 6. Doesn't have to be, but that would be an ideal, especially if fat loss is a goal. When you finish your aerobic exercise, it is vitally important that you do a cool down. You don't want to stop moving until your heart rate is down below 90 beats per minute. Recovery. We're going to train recovery. You're going to get better at recovering. I want to mention this quickly. When we bring on a new client, if they have a high level of inflammation, which most people who have chronic disease and weight loss resistance do, their cool down period takes really long, sometimes 20 minutes. Like they might do 8 minutes of aerobic exercise, and then we have them walk around and we check their pulse and it's 102. Go, no, you got to keep moving until it's down at 90. And then they walk around another 5 minutes and it's 98. The reason is high levels of inflammation usually correlates with a very weak parasympathetic system. So here's the really good news. As you reverse inflammation, as you move back toward health, it will be demonstrated by rapid recovery time. So don't get impatient. If you do your aerobic routine and you're not cooling down quickly, just walk slowly until your heart rate is down below 90, and I promise you over the weeks to come, your recovery time will improve dramatically. I want you to meditate. Even if you're not a meditator, it could just be attempting to be in silence. One of the things I'll teach you as we go is what I call a moving light meditation, where you envision light as life force. More about that to come. Hang out with Ariel every time she's on because she will guide you through some really, really valuable meditations. Visualize your outcomes. If you're willing to now, get rid of those energy disruptors. No sugar, no alcohol, no bleach, processed, refined carbohydrates. Now, I said if. It's not a command. Because I know some of you have been eating and living a certain way, and you're suddenly showing up here because your life got disrupted. So if it's feeling like too much, then don't change too much. I don't want you to feel stressed. Just know we're going to get there. If you don't have a journal, get one. Dig around your closet, your drawers. You've got some books, some notebooks somewhere. Make that your journal. Be aware of how much water you drink. You probably will wind up drinking a lot more than you have been. Ideally, sleep 7 to 8 hours. At least get more sleep than you have been getting if you're in adrenal stress. And laugh, love, and listen. Stay connected through the group until we speak again, which will be very, very soon. And we're going to have a webinar like this. It won't be as long. But every week, I'm going to update you for the week ahead, and the coaches will coach you in between. And I'm very, very active in that group all day long. So it is my prime focus right now. So you guys are now among a team of kindred spirits, really, all of us, looking to find the gold in what really feels like a lot of mud, looking to really take chaos and turn it into order. And I have a sense that we've already started on a journey that we will look back and call beautiful when we get to the 55th day. Until we speak again, good night. Have a great night, a great tomorrow, and be better, everybody. Bye-bye.